All right, let me know if you can hear my voice through this. It should work. It should be loud enough. I did a little bit of audio testing before all of this started, but kind of let me know first. I want to make sure that this is actually audible before I go and do like a 4-hour long stream or whatever. This one won't be that long. And I think I've got this on a delay as well. Okay, cool. You can hear my voice. I can see your chat in OBS. I can't chat back through OBS for whatever reason, which is weird. But I can still chat through this interface. All right, let me switch things over. Okay, so we're about 5 minutes into the stream going. We can kind of actually get started. This is, like I said, going to be kind of a short one. This is mainly going to be a testing stream. I'm not going to be doing any coding probably. I'm going to set up my environment, kind of make sure that the stream setup is actually working. All of the audio seems like it's doing well. I'm on like a, looks like a, let's see, about a 30-second delay on stream. So if I'm not answering your questions super quickly, that's why. But yeah, basically this is going to be a reboot. Everybody loves the RRE series. So I figured let's go ahead and do a reboot of it and do it a little bit differently. So the way that I'm doing things differently, basically things are going to be like this. It's going to be a little bit more conversational, a little bit less polished. Not that my editing style was very good to begin with, but it's going to be less polished, less focused on editing, less focused on like Flash. Mainly because I want to get the research out there and I'm not super focused on doing like 6 hours of editing for a 15-minute video. I'm not a video editor and I currently can't afford one because I'm not getting paid for this shit yet. So it's going to be all about the research. That's kind of what my bread and butter is. And streaming actually is fairly good for research. Aside from being like distracted by chat, it's pretty good for research. You know, you don't have to worry as much about editing, obviously. You don't have to worry about a whole lot of different things that you have to worry about with standard YouTube. I'm still going to be doing kind of the YouTube video style stuff for RRE, but it's going to be a whole lot like all of the web dev stuff that I've been putting out recently. Like I said, mainly just kind of want to focus on the research and don't want to be sitting in like Adobe Premiere and editing shit for like 6 hours per video. That's just annoying. So without going like belaboring that point, there's no point in it. Let's go over to Notion. So Notion is the app that I'm using. I'm going to repeat it one more time. Notion is the app that I'm using for all of the note-taking and all of the other research-oriented stuff. I'm not here to get in a fight over what the best research software is. This is the one that I use and I like it. And we're going to lay out kind of our plan for RRE going forward. Previously, RRE was my project focused basically on, I'm going to turn this music down a little bit. Basically, it was focused on building malware and then reversing said malware to kind of understand better how it works. I still believe in that mission. I still think it's an awesome way to research basically all things malware. You can understand malware a lot better by building it yourself, or at least maybe not better, but in a different way. By building it yourself, you can kind of understand it from the code level, from the developer's perspective, and I really like that mission. It's kind of something that I still believe in. But we're going to take a step back a little bit, and instead of focusing on building one piece of malware, we're going to build like a tool set, basically, and we're going to approach it from the tools-based perspective still, but without focusing on like one singular piece of malware. I think that's going to allow me to build out a lot of cool stuff for one thing and focus much more on understanding the concepts instead of understanding the concepts from this is how my piece of malware is going to run it. So let's talk about research objectives. Research objectives, first and foremost, we're going to be learning about the Windows API. So that was a lot of the orientation before with RRE, was focusing on learning the Windows API, how it works, like kind of the innards of it, without having to suffer through the massive Windows API book. Probably have it, yeah. So I've got like two or three different copies of this monstrosity of a book. Let me make sure it's, yeah, so Windows Internals. It's a great reference book. It's not great for trying to actually read through it and learn the Windows API through just reading this book. It's very, very dry, as it should be. It's a reference book. But it's just not a really great way to learn it. I learned it a lot better by developing the stuff out, actually reading the documentation behind the functions, things like that. That's kind of like, in my opinion, a better way to read. The best way I can explain it is, instead of focusing on the kind of theory, the concepts of it, you're focusing on the application. It's like reading a bunch of blogs and watching a bunch of tutorials on YouTube versus just doing the thing. So I think this is actually a really great way to learn the Windows API. And I'm going to go into like how we're actually going to do that a little bit more later on, aside from just developing malware. But we're going to get back to the spirit of full stack development. So I'm not saying full stack web development. There is going to be web development involved. I actually really enjoyed developing basically a dashboard, a C2 dashboard in Flask. That was actually a really fun project. That video is somewhere on my channel. I think it's like RRE 8, something like that. So that was a lot of fun. I was building basically a web application to track installations of my malware, and that was a blast. I mean, really, I learned a whole lot from it, and I enjoyed it. But this is getting back to the spirit of actual full stack development. I want to focus on like, let's build the thing from the ground up, from the nitty gritty, like from as close to scratch as humanly possible. So that we can learn the things and like learn them from like the low level all the way up to the high level. But it's going to kind of be focused on like, I'm not worried about just like the end result. I'm worried about like actually learning the thing. I keep saying that, learning the thing. I guess that's going to be like the new catchphrase for the series. But yeah, essentially full stack web applications are all focused on like, we're going to do the back ends, we're going to do the front end, we're going to do the databases, all of that. We're going to do that. And we're going to add, like, we're going to develop the systems, like from the systems level. That's why we're learning the Windows API. So that's going to be one of the bigger focuses of this kind of reboot of RRE. It's like really focusing on that systems level stuff. We're also going to be doing more reversing. And that's not just reversing my malware. I honestly enjoy reversing a lot. It's like tearing apart something and really like learning about how it works, whether that's in the debuggers, whether that's in the decompilers. I think there's a lot of value in reversing to find out more about how things are built and how to build things better. So I'm going to be doing way more reversing. That's going to be both reversing malware, probably reversing some Windows stuff, like the Windows internal stuff. I am not going to make promises, because I've made that mistake several times. No point making promises, but I would like to kind of brush up against some of the vulnerability research side. Reason being, I think vulnerability research really is like a great way to focus in on understanding the Windows operating system and lots of other like different technologies. It's a good application of reverse engineering. So why not kind of make that part of it? So we're going to do vuln research. This is not going to be a vuln research series. I'm not going to like repackage this into a series about vuln research, but that's going to be one of the things that we focus on, or one of the things that we might brush up against. So let me know your thoughts, if you've got any thus far. That's kind of going to like, that's like the, I guess, whole packaged way that we're going to look at things. And we're about to, I promise, actually get into some of the more practical stuff. So let's open up, I need VirtualBox open. And let's see what I've already got. So I've got an OS Dev box. I've got a Windows RE box. Let's see what I've got loaded on that. I'm probably going to have to create another Windows box just for malware dev, because I think I got rid of that box earlier. And I'm probably not going to remember my password to this, but that's all right. So we're going to have to create a virtual machine. Let me start writing this stuff down. So create a Vic machine. I've already got that on my laptop. That I do know. So I've got a Vic machine on my laptop. And basically the Vic machine is going to be the place that we actually run the malware. And it's going to be the place where we do the reversing. So this RE box might actually work. Let's see if I can remember how to get in here. That's not it. I'm not going to end up remembering this. C2, C3. All right, this might be something that we have to handle later. All right, I'm not going to worry about that. So we're going to have to create a new one, which is kind of annoying, but that's whatever. Let's go ahead and start that process off. File. Somewhere. There we go. So Windows RE2. I know, very original. So yeah, basically we're going to create this Vic machine, and the Vic machine is also going to have everything that we need to actually do our reversing on it. And create a virtual hard disk. That's fine. Dynamic. Let's 32 gig. Let's go ahead and bump that up to 50 just because that's a nice even number. Pop it open, and we'll go ahead and start the Windows install while I talk because that's just something that needs to get done anyways. So that's the Windows ISO. So yeah, we need to create that Vic machine. We need to, that's unrelated. Let's see. We can go ahead and close that out. So we need to download all of our RE tools, set up a C2 box. I'll do that off stream. Let's see what else we need to do. I need to install Python on our Vic machine. So we'll indent this. We need Python for sure. We'll go ahead and throw Visual Studio in. I don't remember what version that is. I think it's like 2020, 2022. Something like that. We're gonna say that's it for now. We need to initialize our Git repo. That's I'm trying to think of just like all of the boring logistics stuff that I can do off stream. So for my victim box earlier, I just used, I think it was a Windows 7. Yeah, that looks like Windows 7. All right. I think it was a Windows 7 box. I'll go ahead and guest editions isn't on there yet. So we'll need guest editions. What else? That should be it for now. So the things that I want to build. To build. So first we're going to start off with just our simple hello world. Then we're going to build, I want to like start this at kind of like the initial like exploitation level. So instead of starting it with malware is already on machine, we're going to start it with, we're going to create like a decoy document. We're going to do like all of the interesting fun stuff that kind of like starts off an intrusion. So we're going to create we're going to make it an office doc that pulls down initial payload. So we're going to do PowerShell, stuff like that. PowerShell scripts embedded. We're going to need a C2 for that. C2, basic, C2, hosting, initial payload. Initial payload is just a ping. So we're not super worried about like the initial payload being like complex. We're not worried about it doing a bunch of fancy stuff. All we really want that initial payload to do is like the very basics. We're like install on the machine and then ping our C2 server. And then after that, we can start getting into all of the other fun stuff. Let's see, what else are we worried about? So for our initial payload, we just want to ping. I really want to create some web shells. Ooh, what happened there? We are looking for, I think it's Shift Tab. So we want to do a web shell. Web shells are fun. I like them a lot. And we're going to work on multi-stage payloads. We're going to work on, let's see, modularity. We want to build a piece of malware or like a malware suite that's modular, that we can pull down different things according to like different hypothetical situations. So we're talking about ransomware modules. We want to do Privask. We want to do all kinds of recon, exploitation, local and remote. Now, for the Windows API side, what are we worried about with the Windows API side? I want to build stuff like process explorers. Process explorers are fun. So, process explorers, because they kind of help you like build out something that lets you understand the operating system a little bit better, instead of like relying on the process explorers that are already built in or that you can kind of download from sysinternals, all of that kind of stuff. Instead of just relying on those, you can build your own. Why not? I want to build some GUI apps. And that can include the process explorer, obviously. Let's see. We can also do some fun stuff. So prank malware, that's fun. I want to build some malware in Rust. And then all kinds of vuln research. So for that, we're going to like do some 0-day analysis. Well, not 0-day. We're going to do some like exploit analysis on like the hot exploits of the day, whatever's kind of like, I guess, in the news. I assume we'll probably focus a lot on that. I'm also taking recommendations, but really, like, we're kind of focused on a little bit of everything, and that's what this reboot's all about. I decided to do the reboot, like I said, because I think I was too like honed in on building one monumental piece of malware instead of focusing on malware development and like tools development in general. So basically anything that would be useful for like, I guess, vuln research or operating system research or, you know, malware analysis, things like that. So we also want to build out process injection stuff. Let's see. I guess these are all technically research objectives as well. I mean, they're more granular, but you know, whatever. Maybe some like cookie stealers, cookie cred stealers, things like that. I'd also like to kind of implement the ability to pull down like pre-existing tools or like third-party tools, so stuff like Mimikatz, things like that. So pull down, execute, Mimikatz, other third-party tools. And really, like driver research, I think that would be kind of cool. I'm really just spitballing here. But yeah, really, like this refocus is just all about that. It's kind of broadening the pool a little bit so that we can kind of do deep dives into like cool topics. So what I'll probably end up doing is just doing streams that are dedicated to these singular kind of niche topics. So I might just do like a full couple of streams on like developing drivers, maybe to hijack a webcam or, something like that. But yeah, it's kind of like much better geared towards those, singular deep dives across several different sectors instead of just focusing on let's build a malware and then spend 7 hours, editing a video for that. So really, I mean, we could go more in depth about this, but we're going on almost 30 minutes now, and there's not really too much of a point in belaboring anything when I still don't have this Windows box set up. Not setting up a product key. But yeah, I'm going to set up all of the environment stuff off stream. Obviously, nobody wants to see me like do VM management. That's boring as hell. Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, let me switch over to face mode so you can look at my ugly ass. Let's see. So that's what this whole project, this whole reboot is all about. You're going to be seeing a little bit more of me. Going to be seeing more live streams, I hope, and VODs. VODs are fun because I can kind of just talk in long form like this and ramble on, and hopefully people will actually watch it. But yeah, I mean, the whole purpose for this is kind of lowering the amount of lame logistical shit that I've got to deal with, like editing videos and things like that, and focus more on the research, like streaming it and uploading VODs and getting input from everybody who's watching the streams. So that's the focus. I appreciate everybody who showed up, and I didn't expect to see anybody in chat. So Sadesh and Conman, thank y'all for showing up in chat. Anybody else who's there that I can't see, I appreciate it. Yeah, that's about it. Y'all take it easy.